Hello, everybody. Dr. Arbeitman here with the Care2Grow Show podcast, and I'm really excited to have today's guest, a dear friend and colleague of mine, Dr. Tasmin Cordie. Hello, Dr. Tasmin. How are you?
Hi, great, thank you.
So, just for our listeners, Dr. Cordie was one of the first persons I thought of inviting onto the Care2Grow Show because we have worked together since, believe it or not, 2019, Dr. Cordie. Isn't that wild?
I just thought about that this week. Yeah.
So, Dr. Cordy is an exceptional chiropractor and functional medicine doctor. She has certifications from the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, Functional Medicine University, and the International Foundation for Nutrition and Health. We worked side by side on a full-time basis in upper cervical chiropractic of Monmouth. And for the last 4 years, Dr. Cordy has relaunched another functional medicine practice. So she still practices with us, but on a very, very minimal part-time basis because she is wall to wall taking care of patients in her nutrition practice, which is right behind her there. And what's amazing about Dr. Cordy, and there are so many things, is this is probably the fourth or fifth reiteration of her nutrition practice as she has moved around the country, and she'll tell us a bit about that, and has always had a medicine practice. And I am so excited to have this conversation with you, Dr. Cordy, about how you care for patients because the whole purpose behind Care to Grow is to start a national conversation with practitioners like yourself who care at a very high level with the notion that there is a compassion crisis right now in healthcare, that people are not getting the care that they deserve everywhere they go. And what I loved on your website as I was reading your about page, it says, she's here to listen, support, and provide the compassionate care you deserve, making your path to better health both effective and empowering. And I know that that is the truth, having practiced beside you. And we also know that when there is compassionate care, patient outcomes go up, doctor burnout goes down, revenue goes up, retention goes up, staff fulfillment goes up. So, and this is all proven in the literature and research that compassion actually does move the needle. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. Nice to have you here. That's your intro.
Thank you. That's amazing.
Feels good, right? You want to end it right
Uh,
now.
Right.
So yeah, I just want to let's start with your origin story. What led you down the path to become a chiropractor and a functional nutritionist?
When I was little, I always knew that I would be a doctor. And for a long time, I thought I was going to be a dentist because I got really lucky and had nice teeth growing up. So I thought going to the dentist was awesome. And I thought it was awesome for everyone. And I figured out that that wasn't my path in life. But going through undergraduate school, I did want to stick with medicine. And I knew because of how I grew up as an athlete, and just how we lived at my house, it was going to be something a little bit more holistic. And I thought, okay, whatever holistic medicine is, that's what I want to do. So through college, I spent a bunch of time for a couple of different times during college with lots of different medical providers. And one after the next was counting their days till retirement, counting. They didn't enjoy practice. They didn't know their patients. They didn't love what they did. And it wasn't that they got into medicine, like thinking that this was going to happen. They were just there not liking it. And I thought, boy, I don't think I can do this for the rest of my life.
Mm.
I don't think I can like get into this and get through this without loving this because this is a lot of work. And I started looking elsewhere, and some mid-level providers, physicians assistants were starting to become a thing 25 years ago. Um, Naturopathic medicine, osteopathic, and everything looked okay. And then I read the mission statements for all the chiropractic colleges, and I was like, oh, this is it. Like this is so obviously it. I don't have to wait to be a holistic provider. I can do this here with chiropractic. And and it got me into a place where I could start learning holistic healthcare right away. And so early on when I started school, I started taking postgraduate courses in applied kinesiology, which is the form of kind of biofeedback or manual muscle testing I use in practice now as my means and method of diagnosis and treatment. And that was so whole. It was so everything that I wanted that it was just like the hook that I needed. And I knew that it was exactly where I should and needed to be. I did med school interviews when I was in college, and they went as well as they needed to kind of get waitlisted, but it obviously wasn't my thing because when I was asked why I wanted to become a doctor, my answer is still the same. It's that I want to be able to work with patients over the course of their lives, changing the trajectory of their healthcare based on the work we do together. It was clear then. Um, and it just felt right and it's clear now and it is how I've always practiced and it's why the practice I have with you and the practice I have here on my own is very much a maintenance practice because
Hmm.
patients are not flashes in the pan. Like there are things we work on, but it's not because I can magically fix a thing in a day or two or a week or two, or even a month or two. It's because this is a trajectory of health that changes with the work that we do together, and the continued care that's needed in life because life is hard and
Yeah.
and things come up and they change. And so that's really the cornerstone of why I love doing what I get to do because I get to take care of the people in front of me and know them really well. Recently, one of my friends' relatives asked like how well do you know your patients or what do you know about them or what do you do with
Mm.
them every day? And I said I know so much about them. Like I know when they get married, I know when their dog dies. I know when they're going out of town for vacation. I know when they get engaged. I know so much about them and it's what really gives me the stability in practice to show up every day because it's a lot every day to show up in practice and work
Hmm.
all day long and take really good care of people from 8 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock at night. And without the love of doing that, there's no way I could, but I don't have to make it up because it's really truly the reason that I show up. And I think it's like I overdo working. I'm trying to find that balance right now. Have a little bit more compassion for myself and my own boundaries.
Mm.
And that's shifting also after 23 years in practice, but that's I think where I've started and where I still am, and that guiding light has never really changed a whole lot for me.
That's beautiful. And there are so many concepts that I can unpack there. And the first is where you talked about how you lean in and you know your patient. And when we look at doctor burnout, one of the main reasons why doctors burn out is because of depersonalization. They
Yeah.
actually see they don't have that connection with the patient. They don't see the patient necessarily as a patient rather than just the next case that they have to get through. And that's one of the leading causes, well researched on doctor burnout. And when doctors start to feel tired or burned out, one of the main pieces of advice is to actually escape, take a break, go for a walk, do some more yoga, do some meditation. But the research actually shows that we actually have to lean into care. And you said all of these things so eloquently that, what keeps you going through these long days and these long weeks is this connection that you have with your patients. And your method of taking care of patients is to be part of their healthcare team over the course of their life as they go through the different stages of their life and seasons of their life and to really be part of their health and wellness strategy. So you see people in their ups and you see them in their lowest of lows. What is your pulse on the current status of the healthcare system?
I think a lot of the reason this practice is done so well so quickly as a business entity is that the reason it exists is to handle things that aren't getting handled very well in conventional healthcare, conventional medicine. Um, and patients, especially in the last 5 years, have gotten really disillusioned about what medicine is and what it does, and they're seeing it more as an industry rather than as a means and method of creating bigger and better health for themselves and expanding their health. And people have gotten injured,
Mm.
and they've gotten sicker, and they've gotten ignored, and they've gotten rescheduled, and they've just not they haven't had a continuation of care with physicians. COVID was really hard on a lot of physicians, and a lot of them retired or moved or cut back or really changed how they're practicing, because they wanted to, or because they needed to stay employed somewhere, and so how they're practicing looked to the patient really looked a lot different on the other side of that. And that frustration and that like lack of connection, um, it was strong enough for enough people to really start to look elsewhere and to find an alternative to conventional, and to find an answer to a more foundational way that they can actually start to rally for their own health care and understand how to take care of themselves better. I mean, rather than like asking a doctor for help for medicine for a thing, they'd rather understand how to do it on their own,
Mm.
and really put control back in their hands rather than giving it away all of the time.
You know, it's
Um,
it's interesting that you brought up COVID because we started working together in July of 2019. So we had only been really seeing patients pre-COVID for 6, 7, 8 months, and
yeah.
then COVID comes along and disrupts the entire healthcare industry. And this is really where I first got my true first glimpse of you as a compassionate healthcare provider, or really like a healthcare warrior, because that's what it felt like in, if you recall, in March and April, when like everybody was scared, everything was locked down, people wouldn't go out of their house without a full body suit, gloves, and a mask or three masks. And we had a decision to make. And were we going to stay home like so many offices did? Or were we going to lean in and make ourselves available to our patients during their most vulnerable time? And when I called you up and I said, what do you want to do? There was no hesitation in your voice. You leaned in and said, yeah, let's go. Let's just show up. Let's open up. And I think we were closed for like 7 to 10 days as we just had to figure out some of the logistics. And then here we are, 5, 6 years later, and I know there's still a healthcare aftermath of all of that. I don't know that the industry is ever the same. Everything has been different since then. Um, so for you, from your perspective, what does caring for a patient, and you've kind of already talked about it or alluded to it when you said, we want to teach people how to care for themselves rather than just tell them what to do. But from your perspective, what does caring for a patient look like? The caring part, not the technical part. We know that, most doctors are technically excellent, or I sure hope so. But the
Yeah.
caring part on top of that.
Yeah, I think that's the part when patients show up for their visit. I can do what I do and figure out that they need some stomach support, or they need heart support, or they need liver support. And we can do that. And the logistics of that, I'm really good at. I can do that really quickly. But the reason that shows up is underneath there. And sometimes there's a pattern of trauma that needs to be cleared. And trauma can be like falling off your skateboard when we were 10 years old, stuck
Hmm.
somewhere in your physiology or your chemistry, your physical body. But a lot of times when we get injured, there are three parts to those injuries, right? There's a chemistry part, and there's a physical part, and there's an emotional part. And sometimes that emotional component, we sort of lock that out of treatment rooms when we're physical medicine specialists. And to allow that some space to come back in and be part of getting better is really important.
Mm.
And I think the more, and chiropractors are really good kinesthetic healers, right? We touch people all day long. That's where we get our information from. I mean, it's where our gift is. And I think really being able to kind of drop down into our heart space and feel
Mhm.
where patients are when they come in, because when things show up over and over and over again, like when the same guy has a kidney reflux over and over and over again, like we're missing something. And it's not because the supplement they're taking isn't working. It's not because they're not drinking enough water. We're missing another piece or component of that. And if the technique that we're doing handles those things, but we keep blocking out the part about, the fear of losing a job or the fear of losing their parent or whatever goes along with kidney energy, which is kind of fear and worry. Maybe we need to bring that up sometimes. And I think that's the part that is really important to connect all of the dots. And it doesn't mean we heal those things. I am not a talk therapist. I don't do that in my practice. That's not my shtick, nor will it ever be. But to allow space for all of the parts of life to come into a visit and to be okay with that existing at the same time as an upper cervical adjustment, as a gallbladder adjustment, as a, an exercise recommendation, that I think that's important enough to just have a space that is open and strong enough to exist so people can come in and be fully present. And it's one of the things I remember telling you years ago when I needed to start this practice again was that I needed space for my patients to show up to and to be a part of. I really missed that over a couple of years. I just practiced telemedicine. And I really just miss that space so much. And now that it's here again, I can't imagine practicing without it. Um, because just being able to land in a place is so powerful. And it's so funny because like chiropractors who are listening to this know that like when people sit down on the table to get an adjustment, after that table has been there for lots and lots and lots of people and patients, it feels different than like a brand new one you put in your office. Um, and I think there's more to that than I understand how to explain.
Hmm.
But the energy a space holds and I think the power a space holds is really important to keep in mind when we practice.
This is what makes one of the many things that makes you a truly gifted practitioner. You talk about holding space, energetic space, or giving the room or space for the entire person to show up, not just their symptom. And lots of times their symptoms are a reflection or of past trauma or emotional trauma. And I think a lot of doctors, especially in physical medicine, don't want to necessarily open that door because either they don't feel prepared to handle it because they're not trained in therapy, or there's a fear that if I open that Pandora's box, then I'm not going to know how to close it, or it's going to become a really long visit. And the research on this shows that it only takes 40 seconds. It actually only takes 40 seconds to hear someone's emotional need, respond that you've heard them, and that you're going to be there with them every step of the way. And the research also shows that the average clinician only gives a person 17 seconds to actually say their chief complaint before cutting them off. So you're very conscious about your creating a space, creating a container where people can show up. Um, do you find that creating a place for someone to voice their past trauma or emotional needs or current emotional state becomes this long drawn out conversation, or is it the opposite?
I don't think it is, and I think people understand that that's not what we're going to do is fix this with more talking. But I think sometimes just putting words to the feeling that comes up either before or during treatment, um, and describing it with some connection to another person that can hear it is enough.
Hmm.
I don't think my patients expect me to fix any of those things. But if
Hmm.
I know it's there and the pattern of what they're thinking about
Hmm.
is there, that helps me understand other things about what I need to look for from a physiology or a structural place so that I can handle that visit better and more effectively and get through what I need to, kind of open that file and then fix a thing and then close that file for the day. Um, and so knowing all of it is important. And sometimes I just need to hear that while I'm treating them to kind of release the thing that's stuck, um,
Hmm.
or to at least connect the dots for me at the same time as for them so that we can both get them a little bit better that day.
there is a safety that patients feel around you. And there's a vulnerability that they can become vulnerable because of that safety, that space that you've created. How important do you feel that is for patients to heal, to not be kind of holding something really big back and to feel safe with their provider?
I think our practices are reflections of ourselves. And
Mhm.
all of our things that we need to work on come up in running a
Mm,
practice, both like the logistics of the business piece and also the caring about the people piece. Um, and so I think when we end up with patients and we end up over and over running into the same kinds of problems with a patient, whether it's a physiology problem or like a follow-through problem or whatever it is, I think it ends up telling us quite a bit about ourselves that we need to work on. Because boy, if I have a couple of like no-showed patients during the week, which just does not happen very much in this practice, I really need to figure out what I'm not showing up to.
mm.
Or if I have a lot of people just not following through with the things that we had like drilled in, like talked about, and they understood, and then it just doesn't happen. Like I want to figure out what I'm missing for me, and circling back to what you asked, which was ask your question again, and then I want to answer it in a different way.
Yeah, basically it was how important is creating safety for a patient so that
Okay.
they can be vulnerable in their clinical outcome. And are you consciously aware of that when you're engaging with a patient of, I need to make this person feel safe so they can be vulnerable because they're not going to heal until their nervous system lets down.
Yes, and so my answer is no, it's not conscious. And I
Hmm.
think at this point in practice, it is not conscious. The work that I think about, like when I review what's happened for the day, the week, the month, and in a pattern of time, that part's conscious. And that part is a higher level of what am I missing and what am I doing wrong as a manager and as a provider and as a physician. But with patients, that's not conscious because
Hmm.
I have had already to handle that or I'm not going to get anywhere with them. Like that has to happen way before I show up for work in the morning.
It's who you are. It's who you
Yeah.
are. It's just happening
Mhm.
on it. So you've moved around the country, Colorado, Florida, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. How many practices have you started and built?
I had kind of a practice in Kentucky for about a year.
Hmm.
So I had
Hmm.
to build a practice and learn how to do that. And then my practice in Pennsylvania was I was there for 8 years.
Hmm.
I practiced pretty standard chiropractic care, a tiny bit
Hmm.
of nutrition for about 2, 3 years. And I was just so uninterested in treating another neck pain or another low back pain kind of
Hmm.
the same way and kind of unsuccessfully. Knowing what I knew about kinesiology and the training that I had, I just felt like I kept missing things that I could fix in different ways. And all in perfect timing, I landed at a couple of different really good nutrition seminars that kind of got my feet back under me and got me back into the world I belonged in better to sort of shift my chiropractic practice back into more of a blended kinesiology practice again, so I can handle more wholly what I wanted to do and needed to do, and then and I was there for a total of just less than 8 years, and I was in Boulder for 5. That was really just an extension of the same thing. It was another 8K practice, another kinesiology practice, and then I moved to Fort Lauderdale. I was just done in Boulder for a lot of reasons. And I missed the water. And I can say that was like the thing that was the thing I would blame it on. And it was 100 other things, like you don't move across the country because you missed seeing water. But I did, and I needed to do that. And I was just in my apartment, like on a canal, practicing functional medicine. And I had a nice little practice it was a kind of a lesson in a lot of things, including needing to get back into practice in person. So I've been in Jersey for 7 years now.
Hmm.
I started working with you 6.5 of them ago.
Right.
And this practice is kind of a full-time practice for about 4 years now.
Yeah, so that I mean, just starting one practice successfully is an amazing accomplishment for a practitioner, but to do it in many different reiterations is a real testimony to your ability to lead people and for people to follow you. And you do it rather quickly. I mean, I know how busy your practice is in just 4 short years. Now, where you are now at this stage of your professional journey, what is your professional focus? What projects or are exciting you the most right now? What about your practice are you most excited about? I know that you're a continual learner, you're continually training, you're continually getting certifications. Where is this chapter right now, and what's coming next?
I've always been an applied kinesiology practitioner. Um, and I really focused on nutrition for a long time. Kind of as a little bit gosh, just I guess a smaller bandwidth of what ACAKE offers, and I've missed the rest of it for a while. And so I'm working on completing my diplomate in applied kinesiology right now, um, which is which is a big project. It's harder than board exams were for sure. And but I feel like that'll bring together a lot of my musculoskeletal and neurological and nutritional training and blend it together. And then really bringing that into practice in an effective way. It's such an enormous body of work that it's one of the reasons why I focused on nutrition for a while because it was too much for me to bring all in, and I wasn't sure how to do that. Again, in a logistic, like really efficient 15-minute office visit way to do that. And so that's in practice, that's what I'm working on now. And if I step out from that, once I finish this diplomate, I may be interested in teaching that and helping other practitioners learn more about this and actually apply it in practice. And I think that's one of the things that gets really overwhelming for people is like they go to a seminar and they learn stuff, but they have no idea what to do when they show up on Monday morning. And we talk about that a lot in seminars. We hear that a lot, but we don't really see what happens on Monday in practice to bring the information in a way that's like funneled down to an office visit that linearly makes sense for the practitioner and the patient, number one, but also gets them better and actually gets them better on the table in front of you and then better in their life and better between this visit and the next visit. Like all of that has to improve or we're missing something. And that's what I'm really trying to figure out is how I can bring these parts together in an efficient way that I feel good about and I don't lose myself in that work also.
Mm.
But I feel like it's coming together.
I can absolutely see you as a instructor for the next generation or even this generation that just wants to up level. Let's talk about leading a team because we have many conversations. We both lead teams, and you have other practitioners on your team. You have support staff. How do you infuse your philosophy of care into, let's say, a new hire or a team so it becomes a piece of the Sage Nutrition culture, that this is how we take care of people? How do you convey that to the people that you're leading?
The one thing that comes to mind is this. Like one of the first things we always teach people is how to answer the phone. It seems really basic, but like how to do this well is not basic at all, and it takes
Mm,
an enormous skill set. And and the one thing that I will tell patient or excuse me, tell the people who work for me or and work with me is that when we answer the phone, we have to do this well because if patients don't get to this office and don't get care here because this is what they're looking for, they don't find us by accident. They have to look for this to get here and they have to pay for care and they know all of these things coming into it. But if we screw these things up, like if it's a missed phone call or it's a canceled appointment we forgot to do, or if we misbilled them, like any part of their logistical care is wrong, like the stuff the staff handles that I don't have as much control over. If that goes awry, they might not show up for care again. And if that happens, they may never go to another functional or alternative or chiro or acu or non-traditional
Mm.
office again for care, and they might go back to conventional medicine and end up on drugs for the rest of their life because they just gave up on us because they were so sick that they found us in the first place, and they don't have enough energy to keep looking and enough resilience to try again.
Mm.
And if they end up in that conventional system, we know that they get worse over time, not better. They take more drugs, not less. They have more surgeries, not less, and they live less well than if they stay here.
That is such a critical point to convey to our teams that they play an active role in the person's ability to get well and stay well. And something that may seem as simple as I answer phones or I mail out statements can be the difference between that person getting the care they need or not, because the tolerance level for mistakes is so low. So we've always had to do it better. I've always said we've had to do it better. We've always had to
Mhm.
do it better
Yeah.
because there's more friction, right, to come out of the system than to stay in the system. People will tolerate a lot of poor care and poor service in the system. But to your point in the beginning of the call, people are also at this time. There's never been a better time to be outside the system looking for good care, great care, excellent care. And part of the care is not just the doctor patient care, but it's also the support staff patient relationship.
Yep. Yep, it
Yeah.
is. And that part, at your office and here, patients will often say, oh, the front desk is really doing such a good job right now. They're so good and I like them so much and they always do this right. They always do this well. I can tell you guys spend time with them, and that is, and sometimes when I explain like the importance of answering the phone between the second and third call
Hmm.
and,
Second, third ring. Yeah,
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 or the second, third ring, excuse me,
yeah.
not the call. Or answering these questions in this way, these questions in this way, and not this way. And I get really hung up with some of those things when they're done wrong. It's because
Mm,
they don't show up here. Again, it seems like I'm jumping off the deep end. Like if they don't show up here, it's the worst thing that can ever happen to them. I don't know if it is, but I know it's
mhm.
going to be better if they are here.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give them that opportunity to not be here because we
Yeah.
screwed something up that was simple.
Yeah, and a care first leader definitely pays attention to all the details. And I know we do because we've had so many conversations around the minutia. And when you have good systems in place, you don't have to micromanage them. They become part of the culture, and this is how we do things. And we should be hearing compliments, if not every day, every other day, about how great our staff is. And our reviews, I love our Google reviews because lots of times they talk about the staff more than the reason they actually came to the office for. And that's how I know we're getting it right. In the
Yeah.
beginning of the call, in the beginning of the podcast, you talked about compassion for yourself. And I just love that because part of our teachings at Care to Grow is self-care. And to avoid burnout, the provider has to take really good care. If you're going to do this at a really high level for a really long time, we have to show up the best version of ourselves. I know a bit about your lifestyle and how you choose to live, and it's very intentional. Talk about what compassion to yourself with your lifestyle looks like so you can do this care at a high level for a long time.
Um, so I've moved to a lot of places, and the thing that I always find in the place that I move to is a good home for my yoga practice. That's been really important to me. I've gone through permutations of other things. When I was in Colorado, I did some triathlon for a while. And when I was in Erie, I was running for a while. But that's always been like the thing that keeps me grounded. And so here, I get to do that right now, Saturdays and Sundays. But specifically, I know that I'm burnt out and don't have enough of that during the week. And so, like, as of the beginning of the year, I'm going to start to take off a half a day in the middle of the week on Wednesday so I can fit that in. I don't
Hmm.
have enough energy to practice for 11 hours in a day and then go to a class or practice on my own.
Hmm.
It doesn't work for me. I
Hmm.
just don't have the energetic bandwidth for that.
Hmm.
But if I can shoehorn that into a Wednesday morning and still have time to see patients in the afternoon, it's okay.
Hmm.
And I'm a little bit past a burnout phase right now of figuring this out. And so, we'll get through the holidays and Wednesday morning will be like the best thing ever
Yeah.
to have
Yeah.
some space for that. And other than that, I think movement is so important, especially as kinesthetic specialists. We have to be able to move and show people how we do that well, in a very real way. And I think like exercise and resistance training and some kind of athletic capacity of habit forming behaviors is really, really important. And I think that it doesn't have to be really hard all the time, but it has to be regular. And it doesn't have to take up a lot of time, but it has to be hard once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so it's just a matter of how that works. I can fit in some resistance training during the week, doesn't take much time, and I can fit in more yoga classes on the weekends and takes more time. But you just have to figure out the thing that you love, because we are physical bodies and we need to support our physical system. And that's really, really important to ground us. And over again, as much as I'm a nutritionist in practice first, I'd love to say that nutrition is the most important thing, and it's not. Community is
Mm.
most,
Hmm.
movement is next, and nutrition is somewhere down the line, but it's not the most important. It's the thing, though, that we have huge immediate control over, and it's the thing that can really move needles really quickly. The other stuff is definitely part of the whole systems project, but it's not always the thing that I work on in practice with patients.
I love it. And I love that you put community up high there. And I love that you put movement up high. But I know you really well. And there's something that you missed. And as soon as I say it, I want you to speak to it. Sleep. Sleep. Dr. Cordy loves her sleep.
I
Talk
know you're
about
going to
sleep and how
say.
important this is for us.
I also think that if you were to ask like a dozen functional medicine, functional nutrition providers, what's most important, I think most of that dozen will tell you sleep is the most important.
Hmm.
And I think everyone's a little bit different. There's some great books about sleep that tell us why we sleep and how we should sleep and how we should time our sleep. But you know, it's something that putting adults to bed on time is, oh my God, it's one of the hardest things I do in practice.
Yeah.
Like convincing them that midnight is not the right time to go to bed.
Yeah.
Um, and people will sacrifice family and children and chores and work and they'll sacrifice for those things. And usually the thing that loses is sleep. And so
Hmm.
if things squeeze into that sleep schedule, it's really tricky, but you just got
Hmm.
to figure it out and something else has to go. And
Hmm.
and we need enough. And I think
Hmm.
it shortens our lifespan and it
Hmm.
shortens our health span remarkably
Hmm.
so when we don't get enough. And again,
Hmm.
not everyone's wired the same way. I
Hmm.
just
Yeah,
know
sure.
that like I mean all of growing up, my parents never had to tell me to go to bed on time because I was done at 8:30, 9 o'clock, and that's still how I am. I mean, I
Hmm.
made it through college and I made it through, school, but once I had my own schedule that I could like really respond to my physiology, I'm done by 9 o'clock. I can't do anything after that. Like I'm not allowed to talk on the phone after 8 p.m. It's a disaster. But it's part of probably overdoing a little bit during the daytime. That I think it feels like a desperate attempt to just end my day and get to the resting part. And I'm not a super early riser, I'm up at 6, so it's
Hmm.
nothing remarkable. I'm not exercising at 4. And
Hmm.
again, wired differently.
Yep.
And you got to figure out how you're wired, but I think that's a big piece of figuring that out. And the thing is, if you're getting less sleep than that, but everything is good, that's one thing. And you're among a minority. If you're getting less sleep and everything is not good, then you need to reevaluate.
Yeah, and one of the things I've always admired about you is you know thyself. You've always been very clear on what you need, just from a time perspective, a nutritional perspective, a sleep perspective, a mental health perspective, and you know thyself. And I think that is a really good advice to providers. And if you
Mhm.
recognize very quickly, okay, this isn't working, I need Wednesday mornings to create a bubble so that I can take care of myself first so then I can take care of my patients better. It's kind of like put your oxygen mask on
Mhm.
first. So
Usually.
I want to ask you the kind of a broad esoteric question before we go into our fun lightning round into the podcast
Good.
talk. But so this is going to be like put your make believe cap on, your imagination cap. And from a 30,000 foot view, if you had a magic wand and you could redesign the healthcare system in America, what would that look like for you?
I think chiropractors would be the entry point. And
Mm,
I've always thought that because so many problems that show up in a primary care office, in an emergency room, in an urgent care are musculoskeletal problems, and we are the best at finding and diagnosing and fixing these things. We can triage better. We can triage with less care, with less money, with less diagnostics, and we can also treat better. And so, again, if I had a magic wand, that's what it would be first.
hmm
We would be at the front lines of healthcare, really taking the load off practitioners who are very good at diagnosing and treating cardiac conditions that are like life-threatening things and responding to strokes and responding to like arm injuries that are like broken and severed limbs, things that we don't do. But again, if we can triage all of these other things first, um, the rest of that stuff passes through very quickly, that we don't handle. But I think our level of expertise is really ignored and overlooked in conventional care, and it's really unfortunate because of the lack of good care that's provided to patients who need like basic chiropractic care.
hmm hmm
And for, I mean, for not just back pain, but for headaches and for other musculoskeletal conditions, I just think that we really have a huge opportunity to take much better care of people if we were at the front of that line, not like sort of the ugly
Last
step child.
resort. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. You didn't even hesitate. When I asked that question, you didn't even look up. I mean, that just rolled off your tongue. So I can tell you that is a true conviction of yours. So we're gonna finish up here. And by the way, I just want to thank you because your insights, your perspectives are so refreshing, and I think so many providers need to hear them, and that's why we're having this conversation. We're gonna have a fun lightning round with about 5 questions here. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
As ready as you're gonna be.
Yeah.
One word to describe your care philosophy.
Balanced.
A book, podcast, or person that's influenced how you care for people.
Ooh. Oh, sorry. I have so many. Um, into the, what is it called? I can't remember the title of it. It's a book by Brene Brown and it's about belonging.
Beautiful. Love Brene Brown. We quote her a
Mhm.
lot in our program.
Mhm.
Uh, Favorite part of your day with patients?
With patients?
Yes,
Oh, um, my first one.
the first one. Getting going. One thing you wish every patient knew about you.
Mm, I wish I had more time for each of them.
I feel that.
Yeah,
You just gave me goosebumps. So
yeah, me too, actually.
finish this sentence. Care is
Hmm. Connection.
beautiful. Love it. You are a true gem. Your patients, our patients together are so lucky to have you. And I feel so fortunate to have you as part of our team. So thank you for your time today and sharing your wisdom with our community.
Thank you very, very much for everything.
You
Mhm.
got it. And your link to your website
It's just
is
my full name, tasmincordie.com.
oh, so simple. And everything's going to be in our show notes. Thank you, Doc. We'll talk to you soon.